It is one of the biggest, if not the biggest race in the world, and it's ready to rock and roll just next week. The 34th annual Lucas Oil Chili Bowl Nationals presented by General Tire. And to get us all ready, rocking and rolling, we have one of the most decorated drivers in the Chili Bowl join us on the inside lane. He is a prestigious USAC Triple Crown champion, the 2000s Midget Driver of the Decade, and an 18-time Chili Bowl A main starter. Driving the Petry Motorsports number 25 in the 34th annual Lucas Oil Chili Bowl Nationals from Tucson, Arizona, it's Jerry Coons Jr. Jerry, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Hell of an intro.
Good. You know, man, you've been to the Chili Bowl a couple of times. You've done pretty well for the most part, so got to give you a warm welcome to the Arizonan, arguably one of the greatest Arizonans to race in the Chili Bowl Nationals, and of course held in Tulsa, Oklahoma every year. You've already been to Tulsa, though, in the 2020 calendar year, and you had the kiddos racing in the Tulsa shootout. I understand that at times it was a little bit of a difficult Tulsa shootout for them, but how's the kiddos' racing careers going so far?
It's going well. My son, Kale, like I said, he's moving into ran the micro last year, and it was a little bit disappointing this year. We ran the junior sprint, which his last year was his first year there, and he locked right into the A main, so he had pretty high expectations this year going into it. We just had some bad luck with he started on the pole of the heat race. He won it, but that kind of stuck him back in the points, and then he got ran in the side of by a lap car in the qualifier and lost a bunch of spots. So we kind of started back in the B main and needing to run in the top two, and got to third, just couldn't get in that top two. So he was pretty disappointed in that, and I kind of screwed him up in the micro a little bit in the heat race, but yeah, it's a little bit disappointing for him. It's definitely worse when it's disappointing on your kid than it is yourself, for sure. But a lot of life lessons at a young age.
Yeah, maybe a Chili Bowl driver here in the near future as well. But looking into the Chili Bowl, I mentioned you're one of the most decorated drivers in the Chili Bowl. 10 heat race wins, 3 preliminary night feature wins, 18 A-main appearances. And this year, you kind of started doing a lot more USAC midget racing. In the past few years, you did a lot of Silver Crown. This year was really focused on the midgets, finished 7th in points. Does racing a full midget schedule kind of get you a little bit more comfortable or settled in when it comes time for the Chili Bowl at the start of every year?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I've still been racing quite a bit. Like I said, I kind of concentrated on the midget this year or the last couple of years more with the full-time ride with Petry and with Kale racing. It's hard to race a lot of other cars or race all the weekends if I want to take him racing. So I really didn't pursue any sprint car stuff. But so just kind of ran the midget and concentrated on that. And like I said, not racing quite as much. But yeah, Chili Bowl, it's kind of its own animal there, and it's a fun racetrack. That's one thing I like about it is a fun racetrack, even though it's indoor. Some of the indoor stuff's not that great, but whether it was indoor or outdoor, it's a great old racetrack. And so looking forward to getting back there and hopefully, like I said, get it plugged into the A-main this year.
Yeah, you got a couple of best finishes of 4th all time. So what's the game plan now, Jerry? What's the game plan to kind of get you over the hump, and what makes the Chili Bowl just so difficult to win when you got, 350 of the world's best drivers going at it?
Well, I think that's it. Yeah, it's just a tough deal. Like I said, we made, I think I had the record at 13 straight or something like that, making the A-mains, and unfortunately missed the last 2 years. But we did have some, I hate looking at excuses. We had a car that was actually built wrong, and we chased it all year long and didn't know it was built wrong. And we got through Chili Bowl and actually ran the car in Florida and didn't find it till after Florida. So looking back at kind of our races and how the car was working when the track slicks off and everything really hurt us. And since we changed cars out, we've been running a lot better, a lot more consistent. So I think we'll have a little better car going into Chili Bowl this year. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
And you're from Tucson, Arizona. You eventually moved to Indiana, where you chased the dream of being called a race car driver for a living. Do you ever get a chance to kind of come back and visit home in Tucson?
Unfortunately, not like I would like to. It's we get pretty busy just with everything, racing, working, family, kids, and all that. It's gotten pretty hectic lifestyle back here. But ran down to Tucson for a day when I was racing there in Phoenix in November, and definitely need to get out more. But yeah, like I said, just wanted to pursue racing, so I kind of quit my job and moved out here for a summer in '98, and did the back and forth thing for about 10 years, and finally pulled the plug in '08, I guess it was, and moved back full time. Been back here ever since, and that was kind of it. I figured once I was done driving, at some point I'd want to stay in the sport at some capacity, and you kind of got to be back here to do that.
What was the toughest part when you were kind of going back and forth between Arizona and Indiana?
Oh, I don't know if there was much of a tough point. It was pretty nice being a snowbird. I didn't have to deal with the winter out here, and didn't have to deal with the summers out there, although it gets pretty humid out here. So, I think trying to have any kind of stability, but really it was kind of fun. Really, I would come, I'd work some odd jobs in the wintertime, and do some stuff that way to keep some money coming in. But, then once I kind of moved out here full time, I got to where I was going to New Zealand, Australia a couple times through the winter time, spending a lot of time down there racing. So, I was fortunate enough. It was pretty much all I did there for quite a while was just racing.
Chatting with Tucson, Arizona's own Jerry Coons Jr., again, ready for the 34th Annual Chili Bowl Nationals. But, of course, with the calendar flipped to 2020, do you have any solidified plans yet for when it comes to the rest of this year after Chili Bowl?
I just, back in the Petry car full time on the midget schedule, and then again, I don't know that I'll pursue any sprint car stuff. Maybe try to do something here or there, and I'd like to get back in the Dirt Silver Crown Series. That's just a fun series, especially running on the dirt. I don't know that I want to run pavement and dirt full time. That's a tough deal, and it's unless you're on the pavement, unless you're going to get it with a team that's going to go test and at the tracks, it's hard to really be super competitive in that, but I enjoy the dirt, so I've had a couple phone calls on the dirt side to maybe get back in a crown car more. Like I said, I had a full-time ride there, but that ended the beginning of last year. So, like I said, like to get back in the dirt crown car and, again, run the midget stuff. And then I want to run, we want to continue to take Cale to as many races as he can do in the micro. He's running the restricted micro, and I think he did about 24 races last year, and we just want to really kind of concentrate on him too and get him as many races as he can. So just try to kind of split between the two.
And before I let you go, got to do a segment. I do it with every single driver. It's called Quick Time. I got some rapid-fire questions. Looking for some rapid-fire answers. Some of these are factual. Some of these are just your opinion. You ready to set Quick Time, Jerry?
I'm terrible at these, but we'll see how we do.
All right, well, we'll see if we can get you a little bit better. Get you ready for the Chili Bowl. What is your favorite track to race at, regardless of car?
Well, if it's a track that doesn't exist anymore, honestly, I love Manzanita, and I'm not saying that just because of it's Phoenix and I grew up there, but that was both tracks, quarter mile and a half mile, were just great racetracks, and I really miss racing there.
Manzanita, that's where I grew up. That was my playground as a kid, but there's actually going to be a couple of you guys who used to race midgets at Manzanita. Eric Wilkins has entered into this race for the first time since 2005. What is your favorite memory from Manzanita that's probably always going to stick with you?
Well, for sure, the Western World, when I was driving for the Hoffmans in the sprint car, and we got docked and had to go to the tail, and for being late up there, and that was the rule. So I wasn't upset about the rule by any means, but you happen to go to the back of the Western World that year and coming back and winning that was probably the one that certainly sticks in my mind for sure.
And back in the day, it wasn't like just 18 cars show up and you go out and race, or maybe the National Series shows up, and nowadays you get like 22, 24 cars. It was a good 30, 40 car pack when you had the Western Worlds back at Manzanita Speedway. Yeah,
for sure. I think now I forget the year, if it was 08 or 09, what year that was that happened in. But yeah, I mean, it was certainly a stout field, and it was certainly a fun race. But like I said, enjoyed racing. Raced a lot with Eric Wilkins there in the midgets, and I've been watching him in the sprint car a little bit too. So good to have him back in the midget.
They've hopefully going to have him on next week. Anything that you want us to ask Eric or anything like that? Any juice you can give me about Eric?
No, I think he was always a class act, even when we were kids, young. He is a little bit older than I am, so I get to hold that over him. But He was always, very respectful driver, and he was kind of brought up like I think I was, and driving with respect. And like I said, we battled a lot and never had any issues, and just glad to see him kind of getting back into it. I work for Impact Racing, and he called me when he needed a suit, so I was happy to help him out and measure him up, get him in a suit and so forth. And like I said, just fun to see him back at it because I know how much he enjoys racing.
Now, how about a factual one for you? Name me the last Arizona-born driver to win the Chili Bowl Nationals, and I will give you bonus points, fake bonus points, if you name the year.
Gonna have to say the last Arizona. Man, that's a tough one. If it's between McSpadden or Boat.
I think you got both of them, but it was most recently Boat, and that was back in 1997. But yeah, I mean, basically, those are the two Arizonans. Well, kind of, because New Mexico, Arizona, whatever. Close enough, same thing. But maybe looking to get a third Arizona on there this year. But last one for you. If there's one besides that Western World win that you mentioned earlier, is there just a win in this illustrious career that you've had that just really stands out to you as a race car driver over all these years?
Well, boy, it's hard to pick. It's hard to do one. I think winning the Belleville Midget Nationals, to me, growing up, Belleville was the Indy 500 of midget racing. I know Chili Bowl's big and more car count, but to me, growing up at the time, Belleville was it. And for so long, there was nobody had won it more than 2 times. Of all the people going there, the Stan Fox, Sleepy Trips, nobody had won it more than 2 times, and it took me 13 or 14 years, I think, before I won that race. And that was the one race that I said, if I didn't win that race in my career, I would have been extremely disappointed. And so to be able to accomplish that one, I think that was my biggest. I out of the 3, then I went on to win 3 there, which is even more special. So it's hard to say which one of the 3 is the biggest, because obviously the first one was more of a relief. The second one kind of solidified it, and then to become the first one to win it 3 times was awfully special as well.
One of the best race car drivers to ever come out of the state of Arizona, Jerry Coons Jr. Thank you so much for taking the time, qualifying for the Chili Bowl on Thursday for you. About 20 appearances now so far in the Chili Bowl Nationals. Rooting for you, Jerry, and thanks again for your time here on the Inside Lane.
I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure here. And, of course, be sure to check out sports360az.com. We're going to have a few more Chili Bowl-related articles up on the site. And, of course, you can always look at our constantly updated entries for all Arizonans and a little bit of a biography on all those guys. Be sure to check out the site at sports360az.com.